Hey, welcome to the Plan Commission meeting, City of Marshfield, Tuesday, October 21st, in the council chambers at City Hall. Call to order, roll call.
Certainly. Commissioner Mitchell.
Present.
Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner Frederick. Here. Commissioner Bernardi. Here. Commissioner Caprillion. Here. Councilmember O'Reilly. Here. Mayor Teestrake.
Here.
We have a full house.
Thank you. Approval of agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Kim makes the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Rita. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Approval of minutes, September 16th, 2025.
Move to approve. Done. Second.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Identify potential conflicts of interest. Please be advised per City Policy 3.340 that any member of this body shall declare a conflict if they have an interest, financial or otherwise direct or indirect, or engage in a business or transaction or professional activity, or incur an obligation of any nature that is in conflict with the proper discharge of the body's official duties. Any conflicts of interest? Seeing none, move on to item 6, citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments this evening? Any citizen comments? A third time, no citizen comments. Move on to item 7, municipal code amendment request by the City of Marshfield to consider text amendments to section 18-29, single-family residential 6 zoning district to allow duplexes, twin homes, and townhomes 3 and 4 units as permitted uses. The proposed text amendments include updates to the density, intensity, and bulk regulations for the directed district related to the new uses, and changes the name of the district to SR 6 single and 2 family residential 6 zoning district, and updating the land use table. Presenter Bryce Hembrook, planner.
So you can see the screen, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
For the slide? Perfect. So this is something that we have discussed at Plan Commission for quite a while now, and that's, to consider to allow for some more residential uses in the SR6 district. I'm going to quickly just go to this slide here to show roughly where the SR6 district is located. So it is the beige color, the yellow. This was the best map I could find because I was having GIS problems, but generally it's more of the area near downtown, the older historic neighborhoods. Typically the development occurred before 1940s, and so you have a higher density single family district, but then there's actually a lot of 2 family and even 3 and 4 unit properties that are non-conforming that are kind of scattered throughout the district. As I mentioned, a lot of these properties were developed well before a zoning code. And so that's kind of I wanted to just show the map just so you guys get a good understanding as to roughly where we're looking at. And we're looking to change the name from single family residential to single and 2 family residential. This is something that we've internally thought of doing for years now, because technically there was 2 family allowed as a 2 flat. And actually kind of going through over the years, I've seen on maps and other paperwork that said that SR6 was already single and 2 family residential. That's how it was labeled in some sources, but then in the zoning code, it was just single family. So we just think it's time to change that if the Plan Commission goes forward with this proposed amendment. So with that, currently the uses that are permitted by right are single family and 2 flat. 2 flat is 2 units, one above the other. And as we've discussed over the last 9 months or so, considering including twin house, duplex, and townhouse 3 to 4 units. So a twin house is essentially a side-by-side. It's essentially the same thing as a duplex. The only difference is the lot line runs through the middle, whereas a duplex, there would be 2 units on one. And I'll show you an example here. So this is a twin house. The main difference is the lot line would run in between the 2 units. And this is also a duplex. It would be 2 units on one. So the only way that you can really tell if you're looking from the street, or you can't really tell if you are looking from the street, you can only really tell if you're looking at a map, a plat, certified survey map, et cetera. And then duplex, so kind of the thought process we had over the years was, if we already allow 2 flat, which is 2 family, why not allow twin house and duplex? And what we've noticed a lot of times too, is in these older neighborhoods, if people do want to add on to their building, they've come up with ideas that weren't really fitting the description for a duplex or a 2 flat. They had elements of being side by side and up and down. And so we had to deny them just because of, we didn't really have our 2 family residential defined probably as well as we would have liked to. So this would allow for avoiding some of those issues, allowing a little bit more density in the SR6 district, which is already a pretty dense single-family district in 2 family. And then townhouses, the thought process behind that is we in the planning field, we consider that to be single-family attached. And a lot of builders are actually constructing them so that they are single-family attached. For example, I think our building inspector looks at them, individually, and a lot of times they're able to, get creative with how they're building these and meeting certain building codes. Because if you go over a certain number of units attached, it's considered to be commercial building code. Whereas going single-family attached 4 or less, I believe, can be done through the UDC, which is the residential building code, and that's kind of one of the main focuses with allowing this is to try to allow it under the UDC, because it gets pretty cost prohibitive when you have to meet the requirements of the commercial building code. And then one other thing that was kind of discussed was allowing accessory dwelling unit in the SR6 district. We have talked about, potentially looking at allowing accessory dwelling units in other districts. I think it would be more appropriate to kind of have a more comprehensive discussion on accessory dwelling units. And I think that the regulations could certainly be improved for all ADUs rather than just SR6. So I think there should probably be a larger discussion later on. But for now, I think it would be appropriate to allow accessory dwelling units by right in the SR6 district, along with these changes. Right now, there is a restriction that ADUs can only be allowed where there's a single family dwelling. So if there's a 2 flat, they would not be able to. If there's a duplex, they would not be able to. That's something that could be discussed in the future, but it's not a part of the proposal at this time. And then there's just some slight updates to the table, just to try to avoid any issues with the minimum lot area. And we're keeping the same 4,500 square feet for single family and 2 flat as we recently just approved a couple months ago. So with that, that is all that I really had. And we've gone over it quite a bunch over the last couple of months. So if there's any specific questions, please let me know. But other than that, the recommendation is per the discretion of the Plan Commission.
And public hearing is now open. If there are any comments in public hearing. Public hearing is now open for comments. Public hearing is now open for comments. Seeing no public comments, public hearing is closed. And Plan Commission, any questions or comments for Bryce?
I have a question. Bryce, I think you did a great job putting all this together. I just had a question. I actually looked up the municipal code just to kind of take a look at some of these things, but I couldn't find Article 3 that referenced the new, there's a communication tower that was added as a permitted conditional use, and also a short-term rental was added as a permitted by right. And those were referenced to Article 3, which I couldn't find. So I'm just wondering what the communication tower, if you could give an example of what that is and what a short-term rental means.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see here. So with the screen, are you saying because it's in red, the short-term rental, or that there was a path?
Yes, that was added, yeah.
So the short-term rental was not added as a part of this proposal. I think for some reason, when I went to mark it up, it counted, it included that. But we haven't made any changes. I think it was back in 2020 or 2021, we went through and updated our short-term rental, and created like a licensing program for like Airbnbs and VRBOs. I don't remember I think most of the regulations were placed actually in the licensing chapter, I think chapter 9. But there's no proposed changes as a part of this. I think it's just an error that it's showing up as red there.
Okay.
And then the communication tower, trying to see. There's no changes, at least for communication tower as of right now, but that would generally be a cell phone tower if there was a brand new one that typically would require like a conditional use in the district. But yeah, that is not changing as well.
Oh, okay. They were just in red by mistake. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sometimes
That's
working
okay.
with the red line and Word docket kind of messes up.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Bryce? Seeing none, would somebody like to make a motion?
I will move, excuse me, I will move to approve.
I'll second.
Mike and Rita. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Certainly, Mayor T-Strick,
Yes?
Councilmember O'Reilly,
Yes.
Commissioner Caprillion,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernardi,
Yes.
Commissioner Frederick,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Item 8, Municipal Code Amendment Request by the City of Marshall to consider text amendments to create a new zoning district, Section 18.44, Small Scale Residential District, and amend Section 18.54, Table of Land Uses. This change would create a new zoning district that is intended to accommodate a mix of low-density, multi-unit housing types, including single-family, two-family, multiplex, and apartments and townhouses in a manner that maintains the character of surrounding neighborhoods. Presenter, Bryce Hembrook, planner.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item also kind of ties into our discussions that we've had over the last 9 months or so. And the direction at the last meeting was to prepare a new zoning district to account for the small scale residential piece. And so one of the things that I kind of mentioned was that the plan for this would be to create this new district and not proactively rezone any properties to this, but rather it would be more of a reactive rezoning where if a developer, a property owner, a builder wants to, build something that would fit into this zoning district, they would have to go through the process. And then that way it can be more of a site-specific review for Plan Commission and Common Council rather than, just rezoning a large area or a couple blocks proactively. Now, the Plan Commission can certainly, whether it's now or in the future, they could certainly look into that process of rezoning certain areas proactively. But I think that would involve more, definitely more time that would have to be looked into. You'd want to, reach out to the property owners, explain to them kind of the process and what would happen and what they can do with their property. So, and I just think there hasn't been too many people reaching out to me about wanting to develop these 3 to 4 units on their property to where I think it's probably better as a reactive measure. So I just want to kind of start the conversation with that. But basically, the district would be intended to accommodate a mix of low-density, multi-unit housing types, as well as potentially, the single-family, the two-family unit, and then, 3 to 4 units specifically where it would fit into surrounding neighborhoods. So as I mentioned, a lot of these, a lot of the neighborhoods were constructed pre-zoning code. There's already cases where there's 3, maybe even 5 units. And when you walk down the street, you can tell because of looking at the utility meters or number of doors or address, but ultimately it doesn't really, when you look at the scale of the neighborhood, it doesn't seem all that dramatic in comparison to when you go to like Heritage Estates and some of those, cottage court style, garden apartments, you can certainly feel that there's a difference in scale. And so this would look to basically allow the same uses as SR6, but then on top of that, you could allow townhomes, 3 to 4 units, apartments, 3 to 4 units, and multiplex, 3 to 4 units. So just a quick refresher for apartment and multiplex, the main difference in that is whether or not that there's an internal hallway for all the units, or for example, a multiplex, they have their own individual entrance. So they're essentially pretty much the same thing, just slightly different. And then one of the things I did was I included these as permitted by rights, and then I also included 5 to 8 units for townhouse, apartment, and multiplex as a conditional use. And I just want to get the Plan Commission's opinion on if they wanted to keep that as conditional use or remove, because conditional uses are a little bit harder to approve. One of the thought processes I had with this was, townhouses, if there is an 8-unit townhouse and someone wanted to develop a whole half a block, that could be appropriate, if you look at the scale of the neighborhood. You could also maybe have a multiplex or apartment that could blend in at 6 units. It just really depends on the exact design. And so I wanted to include it kind of more as a discussion point, just because we didn't really talk too much about 5 to 8 units within this district. And then in terms of the accessory uses and whatnot, these are essentially the same as the SR6 district and are pretty common throughout most of our residential districts. So things such as, landscape features, decks, on-site parking, et cetera. And then the density, intensity, and bulk regulations for the district is pretty similar to SR6. I also looked at some of the other districts like UMU, NMU, and kind of tailored it. I also looked at existing neighborhoods where SSR would, maybe be appropriate. And so that's kind of what I used to come up with these, the regulations for setbacks, for lot area, building coverage, et cetera. And then the unique thing with this district, one of the things we talked about was including design standards. So I believe the NMU is the only other district that has some sort of mention of design standards, but it's not quite as detailed as this. So if the Plan Commission would like, we could include this design standard where we basically outline what we're looking for in terms of promoting new development that, contributes positively to the surrounding built environment and community character. Promoting, walkable, residential neighborhoods, kind of having more of a focus on pedestrian-oriented design and access to public sidewalks instead of, parking lots in between the buildings and the street. And so I included some building and site design standards. I think most of these are pretty similar to what I presented last month. These are maybe a little bit more vague than I would normally recommend in some of my other communities. However, I think that this allows for a little bit more interpretation for, an architect or a designer as well as the Plan Commission and how does this actually fit in with the neighborhood? And so it's more of a guideline of, are they being intentional about their design when you're looking at 3 to 4 units? And so the other question, Mark, that I kind of had was whether or not Plan Commission would want to review and approve these. So for now, I put all proposed townhouse, multiplex, or apartment use buildings shall be reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission for conformance with building and site design standards. The alternative to this is in some of my communities, we mentioned that these can be approved administratively by staff if staff finds that it meets the building and site design standards. But we had language basically saying that the zoning administrator can forward any proposed application to the Plan Commission where there's either conflicts or for further determination. So that's one option. But for right now, I have it as Plan Commission review, just because I think it would be good for you guys to kind of see to make sure that it does actually, in fact, fit in with the neighborhood in terms of the design. So I went over a lot of information just to quickly kind of show you, here's an example of townhouse, 3 units. And then this is kind of an example of the 4-unit apartments where, that we would try to promote where, when you're walking down the street, it could be kind of difficult to tell how many units are in there. And I think that's what we'd be trying to accomplish with this. And these are some more examples from, previous conversations that we've had. So with that, that is all that I have for now. If there's any questions, I can certainly answer those. And Similar to the last one, the recommendation is per the discretion of the Plan Commission.
Okay, now we'll open the public hearing. Any comments in public hearing? Any public comment in public hearing? Public hearing is open. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. And now, Plan Commission, any questions for Bryce? I know we went over a lot of information, some new stuff he put in there, which I like what's going on here. So if somebody decides they want to buy a whole block and put some updated things there, and it's going to still fit with the neighborhoods, because like he said, there's still some 4 and 5 units in certain blocks in town. So it wouldn't be doing anything different, just to make it newer and more updated. Right, Bryce? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
I like the idea of having decided standards that administrative staff could approve instead of making people wait to bring everything before the Plan Commission. Because we as a Plan Commission would have to have standards before we could approve anything as well. So I would assume that it would be easy enough to create those standards, and if somebody's willing to build according to that, that they're not being hindered in the time frame that it takes for them to get started on their project by waiting to get these approvals.
Jake? Oh, your microphone?
Oh, sorry. You
That's
could just
okay,
check
yep.
all the boxes and have it staff approved also. I don't think everything has to come back here,
Mhm.
especially if all the boxes are checked, you know.
Kim?
Yeah, I like how Bryce presented everything. I think I like it.
Mike?
I will disagree with everyone. I would like I don't have a problem with staff, but I want to make sure that there is a way for people on the commission to discuss this. If there's just a lot of times, some of this stuff is going to be subjective in reality, and I think having the ability to have more eyes on it and potentially review that is an important process in this. So I don't necessarily disagree with giving staff the ability to do that, but I think that we definitely have to keep that loop for any developer or something to also disagree with their decision and bring it here to make sure that everyone feels that it's appropriate.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I do think it's important to get the process done quickly. At the same time, would it be difficult to have those design standards clear enough ahead of time? I'm not sure because you're right, a lot of it is subjective. So I'm not sure how difficult it would be to create those standards where a box can be easily checked. That's an unknown for me.
John?
Bryce, can you define what building and site design standards means?
Yeah, so in this case, it's pretty much what's highlighted here. So facade articulation, entry orientation, roof design, materials, parking location. Ultimately, you guys would review the site plan itself as to where the building would sit. But as long as it meets the setbacks and all of the other requirements shown in this table, you guys can comment on kind of the design and for example, where the front facade is facing. You guys could have a certain opinion on that, but then for example, if they wanted to build up to the setback line and you wanted them to be, in the middle of the property instead of right next, you guys wouldn't necessarily have that ability to require that. But this would allow for you guys to review what type of materials they're looking at placing, where's the parking going to go. For example, in this case, there's a 10-foot setback. You would want the building to be at that 10-foot setback and parking in the back. So it would allow for you guys to focus on those, the 5 different kind of elements in your review. Did that answer your question, John?
Yeah, it does. And in my mind, if the proposal meets those 5 design standards criteria, and then there's no exception there, I think staff ought to be able to approve that.
Because I think with some of this subjectivity, it is subject, and I don't think we can really say, no, I don't like your design because it's not my aesthetic, therefore I'm not going to approve it. And if these are the only, major considerations we have, if somebody's willing to abide by those rules, I don't see why they shouldn't be able to move forward.
Bryce, you were mentioning architecture fitting into the neighborhood or housing around or wherever it is the residents would be put. The design might be dependent upon what's around it. So in that case, it would be very subjective, right?
I think that's why typically you would see this going to some sort of board. Now the city does not have an architectural review board. So I think Plan Commission would be the de facto commission that could review this. Because there is some subjective elements, and that's where in the other communities where they do allow it by administrative approval by staff, but then they allow the staff to send it to Plan Commission, that's kind of helped where, if I feel like, in my opinion, it doesn't meet the, appropriate materials or the parking location, and I want to send it to the Plan Commission to either affirm that or to, disagree and allow it, that helps allow for that process as well, to just get a second opinion, because there is some subjectivity to this. So I think what I would prefer, just as staff, would be probably to leave it up to Plan Commission. The one thing I do want to mention is this is not proposed to be a public hearing or go through like the CUP process. So really, if someone I heard, timeline in terms of getting quick approvals, assuming that they could get this into staff like even a week before a Plan Commission meeting, we could potentially put it on, an agenda rather quickly. The neighbors wouldn't be notified unless you guys specifically require that. But this is to be more of a review, a chance for the Plan Commission to review on a, kind of a quicker timeline than you would for most new projects. So for example, just to compare, the Nikolai, the Quality Sink Solutions that we reviewed last month, that was a large development. That's a CUP that requires going, before a public hearing. All the neighbors are notified. That can take, about 2 months from when they submit the application to final approval. Whereas this, as long as they have all their materials in, you can get a pretty quick answer for them.
Yeah, and I would say I like that idea that, if administrative staff feel like they have the information and can make the call, they can do it. But if it looks like this is something that wouldn't fit, then it can always come back to the Plan Commission. But and you can clarify this for us, Bryce, or I don't know, maybe administrative Barb can, as far as the process goes, it doesn't sound like this is going to be open to, like, if a neighbor wouldn't necessarily like the property or the design, they're not really being given the opportunity to come and have that kind of review.
Chime in first, and then Steve, I don't know if you're going to have a follow-up comment, but in terms of, there wouldn't be a chance to speak directly on that item as part of a public hearing. Mm-hmm. However, the public is able to attend. So if they happen to find out that it's on the agenda and they want to come and speak on that, they can, come and talk during the citizens' comments portion. Mm-hmm. And they can kind of mention it. But yes, in terms of what the Plan Commission is reviewing and their decision, it should generally be, what the Plan Commission determines based on the criteria listed in the code. Rather than public input during the citizens' comment. But So Steve, does that sound about correct?
Yeah, that's about what I was going to say, truthfully. They'd have their opportunity during citizen comments to address the commission and say the things that they have concerns over. And, you know, if there's some validity to it or merit to it, they may well be taken to heart.
Mhm. Yeah, the reason I ask is just to clarify, like, what would the purpose be for why we would want people to bring their information to the Plan Commission? So that, you know, I'm clear on understanding that and that we're all clear about, you know, what an administrative approval versus a plan approval would look like.
Yeah, so I think the main purpose would serve two things. One, I think it would serve, like some of the members have talked about, the subjectivity of some of these standards. And like I said, I kind of created these a little bit more vague than sometimes. A lot of times in design guidelines, I like to be a little bit more prescriptive. However, in this case, I think it should be a little bit more vague and more subjective. So I think that's where going before and having 7 members review and determine whether or not it fits those standards, to me, seems like a better approach. The second is just so that the Plan Commission is aware of, you know, if we get a couple of these and you're seeing some of the work that's going on, I think it'd be good just for you guys to be aware of the types of projects. And if there's multiple that are going on, you know, maybe we consider expanding, you know, to, you know, either other districts or more proactive rezoning, whatever it is. I think it would be good too, just to have the Plan Commission involved in this process. I don't think they need to be, but that's just kind of what I thought might be the best, at least recommendation to you guys. And then obviously from there, it's up to how you guys want to proceed, as well as what the Common Council would like to proceed or not proceed with.
I guess, you know, just thinking back over the last year or so, and different developments as far as, you know, waiting for the Plan Commission to get together. You know, we had builders with, you know, potentially money on the line where, you know, we couldn't even get a quorum together, come together and meet.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, what the builder wanted to do never came to fruition. But I mean, he had to wait, I don't know, 2-3 months before he could even make that decision, whether he wanted to invest the money in a development or not. So I think if, you know, the money's there and he wants to put the buildings in, say if it's a block thing, and obviously there's going to be some sort of public hearing before even any of that would take place, where people can voice their opinion. I think once the ball's rolling, if it's within the guidelines set by the planner, I don't see why it would have to come back.
Right.
Just because muddying the water with, you know, sometimes not even being able to get a quorum, you know, that kind of slows stuff down, especially, you know, people plan stuff and, you know, just like doing an electrical job, you know, you get short one thing and now you're done for a couple months, or, you know, it can be a tough deal when you have to wait, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I guess I just think about aesthetics and quality, quality and aesthetics and facade, materials used. I mean, if it's very detailed and the quality, the standards are high enough, I think it would be okay to have staff approval. But if it's vague and generic, then definitely the Plan Commission would probably have to have some input.
So Rita, what's written here under the section B, buildings and design standards, is that specific enough for you, or is that too vague? Yeah.
It's very vague.
Yeah, I would, like I said, I don't have a big problem with staff approving these, but you have to also remember from a developer standpoint, that they're relying on a single person telling them yes or no. And when you have any subjective nature, I don't think it's appropriate for any kind of developer to be told no or yes by one person and not have a means to have that reviewed by someone else.
So it
to me,
sounds like
that's-
more like you want something in place where if they didn't agree with the decision, they had
Correct.
somewhere
Yeah,
else
that's what I
to
had
take
mentioned.
place. And so to me, in my mind, I'm thinking that's a totally separate thing than requiring everybody to come here to get approval.
But if you don't have that in there, that's not an avenue that can be taken.
So I guess that's my question for Bryce or administratively, how, you know, is that a different thing?
You could always,
Like a recourse for, I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now.
you could always have an appeal,
Appeal.
you could always have an appeal process put
Yeah.
into the mix here, that if someone feels aggrieved by the decision, that they could come
Right.
back before this body.
So it's different than making everybody
Mhm.
come. It's only the people that really weren't happy. They have an option. They have an avenue.
That would be the premise, yeah.
Right.
If
So
you
then
did
that's
that.
my question. Does that have to get written as having that approval, or is that written as like a appeals process?
No, I would think you'd write an appeals process right into the ordinance that said,
Okay.
if, you know.
So
whatever part-
I would approve of that more than having people come to have an appeals process, so that they have a way to, like,
Yeah.
Representative O'Reilly said, they have a way to appeal, but
Is that something you contemplated at any point in your review, Bryce, or does that seem out of place?
No, that was something that I thought of. We could, basically where subsection C is, you would just change it to, zoning administrator may make a determination if the applicant wants to, submit an appeal, it can go to the plan commission for final review and approval. You can also include language, as I mentioned before, where if the zoning administrator would like to have a second opinion, you could include language as well. There's really a lot of different ways we can go, but that is an appropriate avenue that we could take if that's what the plan commission and common council want to do.
That sounds good, Bryce. If we could have an appeals process written in and also have a provision, kind of like you have in your comment here, of allowing the zoning administrator to send it to the plan commission if they needed help making the decision.
I think that goes to some of what Councilmember O'Reilly said, that the subjectivity of it would almost lend itself to an appeals process for someone who feels that it wasn't interpreted very well by the one individual, zoning administrator or whomever that was reviewing it.
well, and I would assume that if somebody got a denial for whatever reason, like, okay, your paperwork wasn't detailed enough, or, for this reason, I can't approve you, that they would have an option to amend that and resubmit that paperwork to potentially be approved again. Am I correct on that?
I'll leave that one to Bryce for the moment.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat that?
So if somebody came and they wanted an approval, and the administrative staff that would be looking to approve that says, no, I have to deny you because you didn't meet the standard, like you didn't give me enough information, this material doesn't seem appropriate. If the person was willing to change that, give you the appropriate information, comply with the appropriate standard, resubmit that paperwork, they could have another option to be approved. Is that correct?
I guess I don't know for sure without an exact situation. But I think generally, if you were to deny as a zoning administrator, typically what we would do is we would write up, basically create a written justification for why we're denying, provide that to the applicant, and then inform them that we can move forward to the plan commission if they would like. That's how we would generally do it. Now, if it's simply they make a couple minor changes to meet the requirements and everything else looks good, they meet all the setbacks, I think that might be more of a discretionary decision from the zoning administrator, whether or not it's, is it a big change? Is it something as simple as just, hey, they were at 19% of their, like vinyl siding may be used, provided it does not exceed 81%. If it's at 81% and they just need to make one little minor change, I think the zoning administrator could go ahead and approve that without sending it back. But I think generally if they're gonna, deny something, they would provide the writing to the applicant, tell them why exactly they're denying it, and then say that they can go through plan commission for approval. And ultimately, if something, for example, if they're showing vinyl for the entire building where we have 80% is listed and, zoning administrator denies it, it goes back to plan commission, they still haven't made any changes, they would still have to meet that 80%, whether, that basically you wouldn't be able to make exceptions through this, at least the way that the codes are written right now. Basically, it would just be like I said at the beginning, it's kind of hard without like an exact situation to kind of go through a scenario, but hopefully that helped answer the question a little bit.
But if the submission itself wasn't complete, then the zoning administrator would likely say, I can't even review this and make a determination until you provide X, Y, Z, right?
Right. Yeah, if, for example, if they did not provide any renderings of what it looked
There
like
you
at
go.
all, then you just would not, it would be considered an incomplete application.
Correct.
That's really what I was referring to, is it,
That's what I thought you were after, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they would just hand it back.
Bryce, back to the question on principal uses permitted by right. You have in your comments, permitted or conditional. Yeah, so we need to talk about that too.
Yeah, so that was something I wrote a long time ago. Forgot that it was still in there.
Okay.
But that is something that could be discussed if you would want to go through conditional for all like townhouse, apartment, multiplex. You certainly could, but just the sense that I've gotten from the plan commission, it didn't sound like that was the kind of what I thought the plan commission would go for. The other thought process with this whole new zoning district is that they would have to rezone the property anyway because it's a brand new district.
Right.
So the plan commission and common council would be reviewing the rezoning, going through the public hearing for that process.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's really necessary to go through, the conditional use permit after kind of going through the process already.
Okay, I agree with that. I remember that discussion from last time about the difference between the conditional use and the change to the zoning and why we have it structured this way, so.
Yeah, and sorry about that. As you can tell, me and the red line version don't get along in words sometimes, so forgot
Yeah.
that it was still in there.
Cool.
Oops, excuse me. You would still keep the conditional use in for the 5 to 8 unit though? I'm assuming, I think that's logical.
Right.
Sorry, were you asking me or the plan commission?
No, I think Mike is asking you, if the 5 to 8 unit would still be a CUP.
Yeah, that's how it's currently written. I think I'm fine with that. I guess that's one thing I wasn't sure how the plan commission would feel, just because we didn't really, I think when we last talked, it was more 3 to 4 units. So I included that. So if that's something you guys aren't comfortable with, we can certainly remove, but as of how it's written right now, it is included, correct?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Any other questions for Bryce? Okay, seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
I would move to approve it with the conditional use on 5 through 8 unit and also having staff be able to review it and at least some type of an avenue for it to be reviewed by this body if there are any discrepancies or concerns.
Second.
Jake seconds. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, take a roll call vote when you get done, Steve.
Mayor T-Strick,
Yes?
Councilmember O'Reilly,
Yes.
Councilmember Kuprillian,
Yes.
Councilmember Bernardi,
Yes.
Councilmember Frederick,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer. I
Yes.
keep saying councilmember. You guys have been, you're going to be here on Tuesday nights now all the time. It's been a long day. Commissioner, I'm glad you give me grace on that. And is Commissioner Meyer, you said yes?
Yes.
And Commissioner Mitchell?
Yeah.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Item 9, local historic property designation request by the City of Marshfield Historic Preservation Commission to add 312 East 9th Street, partial 33-02311 to the local historic registry. Presenter, James Levin, City Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just get to the right slide here. Got a long presentation. Thank you. I just want to give a special thank you to Steve and Bryce and the rest of the city staff for getting me up to speed, as I am new to local government. And I'm thrilled to be here and to be presenting for you. So if you have any questions as we go, please let me know. Okay. So the Historic Preservation Commission has submitted an application requesting local historic designation for the property located at 312 East 9th Street, formerly known as Zion United Methodist Church, and currently occupied by the Pipe Organ Museum and owned by Michael Kennelly. The application was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission in accordance with section, and this is incorrect in your packet, I need to amend it. The section is chapter 18, 141 and 142. Of the Marshfield Municipal Code, which outlines the criteria and procedures for this local historic designation. So a couple of background information points for you. This building was constructed in 1925 and designed by Gustav A. Crazen, a Marshfield-based architect active in the earliest 20th century. The structure is an example of a late Gothic revival architecture featuring a gable roof, pointed arch windows, and brick masonry consistent with the architectural period. The HPC's nomination materials identify the following elements of significance: the building's representation of a distinct architectural style and period, its association with Gustav A. Crazen, a local notable architect whose work includes several recognized structures in Marshfield, who I believe was the architect of the time in the city, the only one licensed to do so, and is responsible for many of our structures we see today, and its historic function as a community gathering space used for religious, civic, and cultural events. Documentation as part of the submittal includes the 2005 intensive survey of Marshfield, property records, and historical references. Following review, the HPC determined that the property meets the criteria for designation and voted to forward a recommendation for approval to the Plan Commission. Oops, we got way farther. Apologies. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what's going on. Let's try that again. So analysis. The nomination application for 312 East 9th Street demonstrates conformance with Marshfield's Historic Preservation Ordinance by providing architectural significance. The building is a well-preserved example of late Gothic revival architecture, featuring pointed arches, as we mentioned, stained glass windows, and a gable roof. Its historical significance: the church has hosted numerous community events over the years, religious services and civic gatherings, contributing to Marshfield's social and cultural history. Integrity: the property retains its original architectural features and continues to serve as a community landmark. And documentation: the application is very detailed and includes survey records, historical references, and photographs supporting its significance. One thing to note, upon designation, any exterior alterations to the property will require review and approval by the Historic Preservation Commission and Plan Commission, as outlined in the zoning ordinance. Interior changes are not subject to commission review. So now it is up to the commission to make the following recommendations: to approve, deny, or table the request for further study. My apologies. Two more. We recommend approval, but we will leave it to you guys.
Okay, and this also is a public hearing, so the public hearing is now open. Any comments from the public? Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed. And Commission, any questions for James about the exterior of the building? Yes, Kim.
Yeah, I just want to say that the Historical Preservation Commission's been working with Mr. Kenling pretty much all summer to get this put on the local historical register. And I think it'd be a great addition to the city of Marshfield once that's put on.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, Steve?
And I'll just add to that, that Michael gave me a tour of his home when I was out there, and he's done a wonderful job with that property. It kept up very well.
I haven't been in the inside, but it's a beautiful building on the outside, and historically, I think that we should preserve it. And the Historic Preservation Commission has found that it qualifies, and I would be all for it.
John?
What is the benefit of having it on the historic preservation rolls?
To my knowledge, given that I'm very new to our zoning code, the benefit would likely, probably, no, I wrote down this question preemptively, so give me a moment. Basically, this outlines an opportunity to adhere to state and federal historic preservation guidelines and to potentially receive the advantages. There are no immediate tax benefits to this configuration, but it does offer, designation and protection via the discretion of the Historic Preservation Committee and this council. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Okay.
Bryce, would you
By
like?
being historic, they cannot change the outside of the building. It's need to stay just like it is unless the Historic Commission decides to do something different or overrule something.
That is correct.
Okay.
And they still have to adhere to ADA standards,
Right.
as
There's all kinds of, yep.
there are layers in how the building permitting would work further from this point, but for the most part, yes, it is protection of the shell of the building, simply put.
I have a question. If something's on the, whatever, historic roll, is it on there forever? Or could someone decide to take it off later? It's not really pertinent to this question. I've just never known how that worked.
I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
No, Kim's
pointing at me
Historical
because
Society,
the Blue
yeah.
Heron Brew Pub was part of it and we got tax credit for it. So that's the reason why we did it.
Sure. Kim, can you answer that question?
I really not sure. I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no because I'm not 100% sure.
I'll join in on that. That's not a question I've ever heard of.
All right, we can drop it. I was
We
just
can-
curious.
Well, that's a good question, though. Yeah, great.
Yeah, I can chime in.
What do you got,
I can
Bryce?
chime in if that's okay.
Please, go ahead.
So there is a process. Yeah, there is a process outlined in the code on how to go about, taking it off the local register. Just at a quick glance here, it'd be going back before the Plan Commission and HPC. So there is a process, and it would be also kind of working with the County Register of Deeds to make sure that it's properly noticed. So there is a process. It doesn't look all that intensive. And as James kind of alluded to, in terms of tax credits, if it's listed on the national and state register, I know that they're eligible for potential tax credits. When it comes to local district tax credits, I'm not 100% sure on how that all works. It's been a couple of years since I've worked closely with the HPC, but there's generally some benefits as well. Sometimes there can be some benefit. We have brochures that kind of highlight the home, and so it's kind of a way to highlight, people that take care of their historic property as well. There are some certain benefits. I think, if anything, I don't recall if it's on the state or national register, but if it's not, I would recommend that that's probably a consideration that should be made to, look into some potential tax credits in the future for any proposed work that might apply for that.
Okay, thank you, Bryce. Any other questions or comments? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Now, any questions or comments? One more time. Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Frederick,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernardi,
Yes.
Commissioner Caprillion,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Reilly,
Yes.
Mayor Tischwig.
Yes,
Motion is approved. Thank you.
thank you very much. Item 10, alternative sign permit request by Aaron Staub for 2 proposed signs on the exterior of a fence located at 3201 South Millard Avenue, parcel 33-07357, presenter James Levin, city planner.
Thank you, Mayor. So the applicant requests an alternative sign permit to allow 2 permanent fence-mounted identification signs located at 3201 South Mallard Avenue. This proposal includes 4 total signs on site, 2 of which comply with the dimensional locational standards of Chapter 24 of the Municipal Code, and 2 of which require Plan Commission review under Section 24-11. So just so I can illustrate the point, there are 2 signs that are in compliance right now. One that sits on the gate post that's going to be wayfinding along South Mallard, and sign number 2, which is going to be located on the building, which is in compliance with the existing code. The 2 in question are highlighted here, both on the gate post and at the fence centered on the southwest section along the intersection. So these subject signs are 34 inches in height by 48 inches in width, approximately 11 square feet each, non-illuminated and installed 3 feet from the property line on the south and east perimeter fencing along South Mallard and 34th. The purpose is to identify the contractor's yard from 34th Street and improve wayfinding at the gated entry along South Mallard Avenue. So while fence-mounted signage is not explicitly addressed within the code's permitted sign categories, the staff has found this request consistent with the intent of Chapter 24 in order to allow functional, context-appropriate signage that maintains public safety and visual order. The signs are modest in scale, placed entirely on private property, and do not project into the public right-of-way. Staff therefore supports the Plan Commission approval of this particular alternate sign request. So it's at this time where you have the option to approve, deny, and table the request for study. We again recommend approval, and I will leave it to the discretion of the commission.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you. Item 11, staff updates.
We just have one, and I want to thank those of you who responded to be available for Monday night for a one-item meeting at 5:30 p.m. here, Monday the 27th of October, helping iState to continue its progress with its development on the southeast side of town. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Items for further agendas. Seeing none, who would like to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Kim
Second.
and Mike. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.